Welcome all. Welcome Prerna.
Good evening, sir. Good
Good
evening,
evening,
ma'am.
good evening, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, एक्चुअली प्रेरणा झुंझुनवाला से हमने रिक्वेस्ट किया था. शी इज़ अ लॉयर इन झारखंड हाई कोर्ट और ये क्राइस्ट यूनिवर्सिटी में पहले एज फैकल्टी पढ़ा भी चुकी है. एंड जब हम लोगों का जो बातचीत हुआ तो उस क्रम में हम इनको रिक्वेस्ट किए कि आप जो पढ़ाती थी वहाँ पे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पढ़ाती थी और भी कुछ पेपर्स पढ़ाती हैं ये, तो हमने इन्हें रिक्वेस्ट किया कि झारखंड के लोगों को भी थोड़ा सा हेल्प कीजिए, असिस्ट कीजिए कि भाई उनका भी नॉलेज में कुछ बढ़ोतरी हो, तो अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन दीजिए. तो एंड शी इज़ बीन वेरी काइंड टू अग्री टू माय प्रपोजल. And
It's my pleasure, sir. It's completely it's an honor to be here, sir. With all of you all here, it's completely an honor for me.
It's an opportunity for all of us, in fact. What's an honor? If you consider this to be an honor for you, you are being very humble. बहुत ज़्यादा हम लोग इस पे इंट्रोडक्शन पार्ट पे भी समय नहीं दें, और हम ऑलरेडी हम लोग 5 मिनट लेट हो चुके हैं. विथ अ हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट टू ऑल कि जिस समय जो शेड्यूल्ड टाइम रहता है उसके 5 मिनट पहले ज्वाइन कर लिया कीजिए. तो रिसोर्स पर्सन को जो भी लेक्चर देने आते हैं या सेशन लेने आते हैं, सेशन कंडक्ट करने आते हैं, तो उनके लिए बड़ा सहूलियत होता है. अदरवाइज वो वेट करना पड़ता है और ये पॉपअप करता रहता है, टुम 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 ऊपर में जो बजता रहता है, वो एक बड़ा डिस्टर्बेंस है. हाँ, तो एक दो चीज का हम लोग ध्यान रखें कि अपना माइक को म्यूट करके रखें, वीडियो को भी ऑफ करके रखें, और पहले मैडम को अपना ले लेने दें सेशन, और उससे संबंधित जो क्वेश्चंस होता है वो टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द सेशन हम लोग पूछ लें. हाँ, तो ये बेसिक्स है जो हम लोग थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखेंगे. ठीक है, तो विद दिस प्रेरणा, I request you to start the session. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I am truly humble and obliged to be here. So, good evening, one and all. जैसा सर ने बताया, मेरा नाम प्रेरणा झुंझुनवाला है. And yes, I have been in touch with the side of law for quite some time now. Universities में भी पढ़ाया है, and as well as practical knowledge. And a little part or a little portion of the experience जो मेरा रहा है इस फील्ड में, I would like to share with you all. मैंने अपना मास्टर्स भी किया है जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पे ही था, एंड आई बिलीव आर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया जो है हमारे पास, जो लिखा गया था बैक इन द ईयर 1950, it is one document that is so beautifully drafted कि ये जो document है इसमें it has all the powers, the abilities, everything is written down and crafted so beautifully कि today, even today, almost 75 80 years later we are able to adopt from it and continue working it, right? Now when we talk about the constitution, yeah, the word is constitution, what is it? मतलब if we try to define constitution क्या है, so there is a Latin word which means constitutus, ठीक है, constitutus, which means to build or establish. Now थोड़ा पहले की हिस्ट्री क्या थी हमारी, तो Britishers, they ruled over us for almost more than 2 centuries, right? उसके पहले भी इंडिया में there was not democracy, there was never democracy in India. इंडिया छोटे 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 टुकड़ों में बटा हुआ था. वी हैड राजा महाराजा थे जो हमें रूल करते थे. वी हैड मुगल्स जो आए थे हमें रूल करने. सो इंडिया दो एक प्रदेश था, बट उसके अंदर भी हमेशा छोटे छोटे देश हुआ करते थे. एंड दैट इज व्हाई जब इंडिया फाइनली अंग्रेजों से हमें अपनी आजादी मिली, फाइनली व्हेन इन द ईयर 1947 वी वर फ्री, जो हमारे फ्रीडम फाइटर्स थे उन्होंने ये बात रियलाइज की कि अब बस बहुत हो गया, अब दोबारा कभी भी हमें कोई कैप्चर ना कर सके, कोई हम पे शासन ना कर सके. जो पीपल होते हैं, जो हमारे कंट्री के जो सिटीजन्स हैं, उनके हाथ में पावर होनी चाहिए, राइट? एंड ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट था. दिस वाज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स दैट वाज टेकन by the people, of the people, for the people. Democracy is nothing but by the people, of the people, for the people. ये जो whole concept है democracy का, that is what was the foundation on which our constitution was built. हमने कहा बहुत हो गया, nobody else is ever going to rule us. We will be our own leaders, we will be our own makers, and that is the reason we thought of democracy. अब व्हाट इज डेमोक्रेसी? आज हम डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट की अगर बात करें, ब्रिटेन में डेमोक्रेसी नहीं है. ब्रिटेन में देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड मोनार्की. ये क्या होता है? जहां पे पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी एक फैमिली होती है, राजाओं की एक फैमिली होती है, किंग्स, क्वींस. देवेंद्र जी प्लीज आप म्यूट कर दीजिए अपना कॉल.
अरे कोई म्यूट कर दो, म्यूट करो.
यस, ओके. सो जब मोनार्की की हम बात करते हैं, तो मोनार्की में जो एक राजा या महाराजा होता है, या जो एक स्पेसिफिक फैमिली होती है, दे आर द रूलर्स ऑफ द कंट्री. They decide the constitution. आज इंडिया में we have a rule book, we have a constitution, we have something that tells us how a government is supposed to function, how this government should come into existence. All of these things are written down. But when we think of monarchy, वहां पे there is nothing is written down. Everything in Britain comes from the Queen's direction. Whatever the Queen says is what the people have to follow. But India में ये मनमानी नहीं चलती है. India में we have a constitution, and this constitution, it was not easy to adopt this constitution. ये जो constitution था, it took ages for us to arrive at the constitution that you're even seeing today. Because continuously amendments होते हैं, continuously according to the time, according to however the situations changes, हमारी constitution में भी changes आ रहे हैं, right? Now, the Constitution of India is the supreme rule book. It is the supreme power, most supreme law of India. आज इंडिया का गवर्नमेंट, आज इंडिया के पीपल, आज हमारा राइट्स या जो भी whatever is our existence in this country, every single thing comes from the Constitution of India. Constitution इतना beautifully लिखा गया है कि even after 70 years, even today, every single thing is defined in the Constitution. आपको पता है हमारा जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, इट इज द वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट, वर्ल्ड्स लेंथीएस्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इन द वर्ल्ड, एंड इसका रीजन है. So when the constitution was being drafted after our independence, there was something called a constituent assembly that was formed. And who was the head of this constituent assembly? Any idea?
B.R. Ambedkar, ma'am.
Correct. So Bhimrao Ambedkar ji, or B.R. Ambedkar, he was the head of this particular constituent assembly, and it was these people who took it upon themselves to have debates, to have dialogues, to read up on all the possible constitutions of the world, to understand, to recognize what will be the best for India. It was these constitutional debates that happened for more than 2 years that led us to the point that we are in today. Right? When was the date? Which was the date on which the constitution was adopted?
26 November 1949.
Correct. It was this date जो final constitution था उसको adopt किया गया था. Adopt means people sat and voted and they said yes, this is the final version of the constitution. But it was enacted on 26th January 1950. Okay? It was enacted 2 months later, but it was adopted in 1949. Up uske baad, there were no major changes that was made to this constitution. Now, when we talk about the constitution, there are certain aspects to it that we need to understand, right? There was a reason why we decided, okay, there will be division of power. When we talk about the division of power between the center and the states, there is a reason why we have a federal form of government with unitary power, right? दोनों तरीके से we had to look and decide कि what will be the best for a country like India, which is like a mosaic. So Hillary Clinton ने एक बार ये बात बोली थी कि जो अमेरिका है ना, it is the melting pot of the world, but when we talk about India, it is like a mosaic of the world. अब इसमें difference क्या है? जो भी अमेरिका में जाता है वो वहां के रंग ढंग में रंग जाता है, उसकी कोई इंडिविजुअलिटी नहीं होती है. एक मिट्टी का घड़ा क्या होता है? आप 10 तरीके की मिट्टी लाओ, फिर भी अगर आप उसको पानी में मिलाओगे तो वो सब एक तरीके के होके एक घड़ा बना लेते हैं. दैट इज व्हाट अ मेल्टिंग पॉट इज. और एक मोज़ेक, जो एक टाइल होती है, जो हमारे घर में आपने देखा होगा, अलग अलग रंग की जो टाइल होती है, उसमें क्या होता है? छोटे छोटे क्रिस्टल्स होते हैं, सबका अपना अपना रंग है, बट साथ में फिर भी वो एक टाइल में रह रहे हैं. Right? India is that mosaic. यहाँ पे हर एक स्टेट की अपनी इंडिविजुअलिटी है. इनफैक्ट हर 100 किलोमीटर पे हमारा लैंग्वेज तक चेंज हो जाता है. राइट? एवरी प्लेस, एवरी स्टेट, इनफैक्ट our climate is also so diverse about it. In the Himalayas, we have the one of the tallest mountains in the world. The Himalayas is in the north. We have the desert in Rajasthan, which is in the west. We have Sundarbans. We have the world's largest delta. हमारे पास oceans है south में. So it is a mixed bag. इंडिया का climate भी इतना different है. इंडिया में world's largest rainfall वाला जो city है Mausinam, that is also in India. So you can imagine the kind of variations that are there in India. And इसीलिए when we talk about something called the Uniform Civil Code, can anyone tell me what Uniform Civil Code is?
Ma'am, this code for all.
Yeah.
सर मैम सभी के लिए एक जैसा ही कानून हो, चाहे वो किसी भी धर्म की क्यों ना हो.
Exactly. So under Article 44 of the Constitution of India, which talks about the directive principles of state policy, we have something called the Uniform Code, Civil Code. Now, India, when I say it's a mosaic, यहाँ पे हर धर्म के लोग भी रहते हैं. Correct है? So when हर धर्म के लोग यहाँ रह रहे हैं, आज एक तरीके से हिंदुओं में शादी होती है, एक तरीके से पंजाबियों में शादी होती है, एक तरीके से मुस्लिमों में शादी होती है. एंड सिमिलरली डिवोर्स के तरीके अलग हैं, हमारे जो प्रॉपर्टीज हमें मिलते हैं उसके तरीके भी अलग हैं. बट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मेकर्स दे वांटेड इंडिया टू बी वन इन एवरी सेंस. And that is the reason they thought of India to be a secular country. Now, when I say secular, इस word को ना बहुत misinterpret किया जाता है by everyone. When we say that the Constitution of India is secular, when we say the government of India is secular, what we actually mean is कि जो govern जो state का recognition of religion है, that is zero. इंडिया का अपना कोई रिलीजन नहीं है. The government itself has no religion of its own. This is what the word secular means. And because इंडिया का या गवर्नमेंट का कोई खुद का रिलीजन नहीं है, इसीलिए they are tolerant towards every religion. मतलब कि in India every person has a right to freedom of religion, has a fundamental right to believe or not to believe in a religion. मतलब कि ना ही सिर्फ ये बात बोली गई कि हम कोई रिलीजन फॉलो करना है तो आप कर सकते हो, लेकिन अगर आप भगवान में नहीं भी मानते हो, then also you have the freedom to follow that. अगर आप मानते हो कि there is no supreme power, then also a word called atheist, even if you're that, that's also fine. Your religion is not your identity, is what the Constitution talks about when it says secular, the word secular. Now, when I was talking about the Uniform Civil Code, the reason why I brought up this was you have to understand that एक law जब बनता है इंडिया में, do you know what the process of law is? So how it happens is that whenever a law has to be made in India, any law for that matter, पहले एक बिल बनता है. बिल कैसे बनता है? So जो भी particular minister of the Lok Sabha या राज्य सभा wants a law to be implemented, वो पहले एक draft बनाते हैं उस law का. Okay, now this draft then goes to the parliament, whether in the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, जो भी house का वो minister है, uses that in that particular house. After that, there is a long process of debates and discussions that they take place on that particular draft. And उस debate and discussion के बाद voting होती है. Okay? Once that is passed in one house, then it goes to the second house. In the second house also, same thing. There is a debate that happens. Then there is a process of voting that takes place, and once it is passed by both the houses of the parliament, then it goes to the president, who finally signs on it, and that is how a law comes into existence. So even जो law बनता है इंडिया में, उसका procedure भी laid down है. And how does all of this happen? It happens because our forefathers, our constitution makers thought of this. उन्होंने बोला कि इतना इजीली किसी के लिए भी नहीं होगा कोई लॉ बनाना या लॉ हटाना. We want कि कोई भी चीज अगर हो, it needs to be done fairly. There is separation of powers. It is one of the most important features of our constitution. What is separation of powers? In India, there are three organs of the government. You have the legislature, you have the executive, and you have the judiciary. And in तीनों organs का अपना अपना काम है, right? जब हम legislature की बात करते हैं, we talk about the law making power. We talk about the lawmakers of this country. We talk about the parliament at the state level, at the central level, and we talk about the Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad at the state level. जो ministers हैं, जिनको हम elect करते हैं, ये जो इतना बड़ा power है हमें to elect the ministers, ये इतना important इसीलिए है क्योंकि ये ministers are our voice. जो common people के voice है, these ministers are that, and they are the ones who sit in that parliament and talk about our rights, talk about the laws that are needed at the ground level, right? That is why I say we are a democracy of the people, for the people, by the people. Okay, now when we talk about this particular aspect, we have to also understand that these lawmakers of the country, the people who are sitting in the parliament or sitting in the Vidhan Sabha and the Vidhan Parishad, are actually very important people who are making the law of this country. But that is their only job. Full stop. Uske baad starts the other work, which is the implementation or the execution of this law, right? एक law बन गया, अब इसको execute कौन करता है? इसको execute the executives करते हैं. And if you may ask, who are the executives? The law enforcing bodies. For example, your police, they are the executives of this law, right? जो भी IAS, IPS होते हैं, ये सब एक executive या administrative body के part हैं, which is of the India. Now you have to also understand that when we talk about the IAS, the All India Civil Services Examinations, the IAS, the IPS, the IFS, इनको भी कैसे अपॉइंट किया जाए या इनका एग्जाम्स कैसे कंडक्ट किया जाए, ये सारी चीजें भी हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मेकर्स ने सोची थी एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इंक्लूड की थी ताकि कहीं प्रॉब्लम ना आए. So you can see the kind of knowledge, the kind of thinking, the kind of debates that happen. अगर कभी टाइम मिले, go to the libraries, sit there down, you will have these constitutional debates की books रखी हैं, जो debates हुई थी from 1947 up till 1949, जो debates होती थी उस constituent assembly के बीच, एक एक article जो आया है या एक एक article जो लिखा गया है, वो क्यों आया है, उसके पीछे का लॉजिक क्या है, एक एक आर्टिकल के पीछे की लॉजिक, पीछे की हिस्ट्री कहां से ली गई है, ये सारी चीजें उस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डिबेट्स में लिखी गई हैं, किसका क्या व्यू पॉइंट था. Does anyone know Article 370 is one of the only articles that was never drafted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar? He had said, I will not draft this. I am against this, and he did not draft that article to begin with. So you can imagine the kind of history that goes into it. Now, like I was telling you all, when we think about it, even जब Britishers हमें छोड़ के जा रहे थे, at that point of time also, it is not like the Britishers had united us in any way. Even at that point of time, there were certain princely states in India. ठीक है, princely states का मतलब around more than I think 572 princely states थे उस time India पे. So in princely states, मतलब वहां पे भी राजा महाराजा तब भी थे इंडिया में. इन princely states को ये ऑप्शन दिया गया था ब्रिटिशर्स द्वारा कि या तो आप अपना खुद का कंट्री बना लो, या तो you become a part of India or you become a part of Pakistan. ठीक है. And what had happened was the job was actually taken up by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and VP Menon, And in दिया था, they talked. They had various measures in which they spoke to all of these kings and rajas who were the heads of these princely states and convinced them to become a part of India, to give up their princely state and become a part of a large democracy, which was going to be the largest democracy of the world. So ऐसे करके most of these states had decided, कुछ ने बोला हम पाकिस्तान के साथ जाएंगे, कुछ ने बोला हम इंडिया के साथ जाएंगे, ठीक है. सिर्फ 2 स्टेट बचे थे, एक हैदराबाद और दूसरा जम्मू एंड कश्मीर. जो हैदराबाद था उसको तो सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल ने अपनी सूझबूझ से कन्विंस कर लिया था, ये बोल के कि एनीवेज यू आर इन द सेंटर, आसपास कोई भी स्टेट्स हमारे बचे नहीं है, सो इट इज मोर smart to become a part of India, and that is how Hyderabad became a part of India. And कुछ invasions and ये सब भी हुए थे, that's a long history. But at the end only Jammu and Kashmir was left. And Jammu and Kashmir के जो राजा थे Sri Hari Singh, he said I don't want to be a part of either India or Pakistan. And then Pakistan being Pakistan, उन्होंने guerrilla warriors भेज दिए, and all of that happened, and that led to 370 being formed eventually, which is now struck down for our, as we see and know today, right? Now coming back to the Constitution of India, जब Constitution लिखा गया था back in the year 1950, 26th January 1950, on that date Constitution के 395 articles थे, 22 parts थे, 8 schedules थे, right? And close to 1,45,000 words का ये जो पूरा बुक है, ये जो पूरा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है वो लिखा गया था, ठीक है. ओवर टाइम हमने बहुत सारे अमेंडमेंट्स देखे हैं, हमने बहुत सारी चेंजेस देखी हैं इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, बट ओरिजिनली दिस वाज द फिगर दैट वी began with. Now when we also talk about the Constitution of India, it is very necessary to see and understand that, okay, when we talk about the Constitution, there are certain features that I just discussed, right? When we talk about it being the largest or the lengthiest constitution of the world, you know, Constitution के बहुत सारे parts हमने बहुत जगहों से adopt किए हैं, चाहे वो emergency powers हो, चाहे वो fundamental rights हो, चाहे वो directive principles हो, चाहे वो fundamental duties हो, चाहे वो preamble हो, the concept of preamble. And we have no shame in saying that, yes, we were inspired by other constitutions of the world to include those elements in our constitution. And it is a good thing. We took the best of everyone, and today we have a document that helps us understand their rights. Now, when we talk about the parts of the constitution, starting में अगर आप देखोगे, so under Article 1, like I told you all, Constitution is a federal, has a federal nature with unitary aspects, right? Now, when I say federal form of government में क्या होता है कि छोटे छोटे states होते हैं एक ही country के अंदर, but जो ये छोटे states होते हैं उनके पास बहुत ज्यादा power होता है. Center जो होता है उसके पास comparatively lesser powers होते हैं. But India में ऐसा नहीं है. And when we talk about unitary form of government, जो central government होता है, that is what matters. That has the almost every power that can exist. Now, when we talk about federal form of government, the best example would be the US or the America, right? And when we talk about unitary form of government, आप Australia का example ले सकते हो. Not Australia, I would say आप France का example ले सकते हो, जहाँ पे the government is very strong. But India में क्या है? We have federal form of government with unitary features. In fact, Article 1 of the Constitution hai, it clearly says, what does Article 1 talk about? Any idea?
Union
and its territory.
Exactly. We use the word union of states. The term federal kahin nahi likha hua hai. And the reason we talk about ourselves as being a union of states is because though India में छोटे states हैं, at the end of the day, we have one single citizenship that we give to every person. यूके में if you यूएस में if you have to travel from one state to another आपको पासपोर्ट लगता है. इंडिया में आप झारखंड से बिहार जाओ आपको पासपोर्ट की जरूरत नहीं है, right? That is because we have one single citizenship in our country.
मैम
When we talk about
डुअल सिटीजनशिप
yes,
है. यूएस में डुअल सिटीजनशिप रहता है मैम, स्टेट का भी रहता है और कंट्री का भी रहता है.
exactly. US talks about dual citizenship, whereas India does not say that. इंडिया में बहुत सिंपल कॉन्सेप्ट है. आप एक इंडियन हो, चाहे आप महाराष्ट्र में रहो, चाहे आप झारखंड में रहो, चाहे आप यूपी में रहो, आप कहीं भी रहो, यू आर द सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया. आपकी रिकग्निशन वही है, आपकी आइडेंटिटी वही है, right? And because we have single citizenship, because we are citizens of India, that is the reason. Shivani, can you please put your mic on mute? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so because we have single citizenship, because we recognize ourselves as having only one citizenship, it is a feature of the unitary form of government in India. Okay? That is why when Akshay Kumar was offered the citizenship of Canada and he decided to take that up, automatically his citizenship of India got lapsed. Okay? So if ever you accept the citizenship of any other country in the world, you stop being a citizen of India. आप एक बार में इंडिया और किसी और कंट्री का सिटीजन नहीं हो सकते हो. It is a prestige, it is something which is a matter of pride. अगर आप इंडिया के सिटीजन हो, आपको कहीं और की सिटीजन होने की जरूरत भी नहीं होनी चाहिए, right? So coming back to the constitution, when we talk about the constitution, the first and foremost page, what does it talk about?
Ma'am?
What is the first page of the constitution? What does it say?
Ma'am,
Preamble, ma'am.
Correct. Preamble. And what is the preamble?
Preamble, ma'am, preamble is the mirror of the entire constitution. What has been incorporated in our constitution, in the first page of the constitution, it has been clearly written in few words. That is preamble. The entire meaning of the constitution has been put in a single page. I think so.
Exactly.
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के फीचर्स के साथ साथ मैम हमारे कंट्री के ज्योग्राफिकल फीचर्स को भी मेंशन किया है मैम. वाइल्ड लाइफ एंड फॉरेस्ट को भी प्रेम्बल में लिया गया मैम.
Okay. Okay. So when we talk about the preamble now, एक इंसान, you know, what is the difference between a human being that is alive and dead? Bone structure दोनों में होता है, skin दोनों में है, blood भी दोनों में है, but after your death, all your functions stop in a way, right? Body है, but उसके अंदर soul नहीं होता है, right? When we talk about the Constitution of India, जो preamble है ना, it is the soul of that constitution. The preamble is the key to understanding the minds of those people who drafted the constitution. आज भी अगर हम कहीं अटकते हैं, आज भी अगर कोई डिसीजन लेने में कहीं हमें लगता है कि कोई एक पर्टिकुलर आर्टिकल या कोई एक पर्टिकुलर लॉ, when we talk about the constitution particularly, अगर हमें लगता है कि कोई एक particular law is not making sense, yeah, there is some ambiguity to it, where do we go? We run to the preamble. We go back and see कि ये जो preamble है, the preamble of the constitution, which is the soul of this constitution, which tells us कि जो constitution में लिखा हुआ है उसके पीछे का intention क्या है. We see this constitution का preamble. Now, the country of USA was the first that talked about having a preamble, that actually had a preamble to its constitution, and we got inspired from there and we had a constitution. So let me read out the constitution preamble to you. It says that we the people of India. Now when we say we the people of India, It is a very important aspect to this. Why? Because हम ये बोल रहे हैं कि ये जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, द पीपल ऑफ इंडिया, हम जो इस कंट्री के सिटीजन्स हैं, हम जो इस कंट्री के नागरिक हैं, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, and the unity and integrity of the nation in our constituent assembly on this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this constitution. When we read this, literally रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं. And उसका कारण ये है कि इस particular, ज्यादा बड़ा नहीं है, it is merely a paragraph of 50 to 60 words. इतने में ही हमें समझ में आ जाता है इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के प्रियम्बल का वैल्यू. हमें ये समझ में आ जाता है कि हम जो है, we are the ruler of ourselves. बाहर से या अंदर से हमें कोई रूल नहीं कर सकता है. Every citizen has the power to either make or break the government by casting our vote. That is why we have something called the universal adult franchise, where every person above the age of 18 years has the right to cast a vote and, have the right to choose our leaders. आज भी वर्ल्ड के बहुत कंट्रीज हैं जहां पे उनके सिटीजन्स को ये राइट नहीं दिया जाता है कि उनका लीडर कौन होगा. मोनार्की में तो एकदम नहीं है. देयर आर कंट्रीज लाइक नॉर्थ कोरिया विच इज लिटरली अ डिक्टेटरशिप, जहां पे एक पर्टिकुलर राजा है और वो चाहे जो भी रूल बनाए हम उस देश के लोगों को फॉलो करना पड़ता है, चाहे वो रूल मेक सेंस करे या नहीं करे. बट इंडिया में ये चीज नहीं है. We take it for granted, which we should not, right? So when we talk about we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved मतलब हम लोग ने बहुत सोचने समझने के बाद ये डिसीजन लिया है कि हम लोग इंडिया को एक सॉवरेन, सोशलिस्ट, सेक्युलर, डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक बनाएंगे. मतलब what does sovereign mean? The word sovereign means कि ना सिर्फ अंदर से बट ना सिर्फ बाहर से, कहीं से भी ले लो, हमें हमारे सिवा कोई रूल नहीं कर सकता. बाहर का कोई भी आके हम पे हक नहीं जता सकता. We are self-sufficient. We are our own leaders, sovereign. ठीक है? When we talk about socialist, India एक ऐसा nation है which talks about equality, which talks about having a social standing जहां पे हर तरफ we think about the welfare of the people. जो common public है उनका welfare prime importance का है. That's why we consider ourselves to be a socialist. Secular मैंने already बता चुका है, but फिर भी मैं बताती हूँ. Secular का मतलब है जो government है उसका कोई खुद का religion नहीं है. There are countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia जिन्होंने खुद को एक इस्लामिक नेशन रिकॉग्नाइज किया है, राइट? देयर इज वेटिकन सिटी जहां पे क्रिश्चियनिटी इज द मेन रिलीजन दैट द स्टेट इटसेल्फ रिकॉग्नाइजेस टू हैव. देयर इज स्टेट्स लाइक नेपाल एंड भूटान में शायद बुद्धिज्म है, नेपाल में शायद हिंदुइज्म है, राइट? So there are certain states that have recognized themselves to have a particular religion, but India is very tolerant. We said कोई religion नहीं है, गवर्नमेंट का कोई एक रिलीजन नहीं है. वी आर टॉलरेंट टुवर्ड्स एवरी रिलीजन एंड दैट इज व्हाई freedom of religion is also a fundamental right that has also been guaranteed to us under part 4 of the Constitution of India. Now, democratic, like I said, democracy, India is the largest democracy in the world, right? We believe in by the people, of the people, for the people, right? इसका मतलब ये होता है कि जो हमारा गवर्नमेंट है उसको किसने बनाया है? इट इज बाय द पीपल. लोगों ने इलेक्शंस किए हैं, लोगों ने अपना वोट कास्ट किया है, ठीक है? लोगों ने अपना वोट कास्ट करके वो गवर्नमेंट बनाई है, इसीलिए इट इज बाय द पीपल, ऑफ द पीपल। मतलब कि आज क्या मैं प्रेसिडेंट बन सकती हूँ? डू आई हैव द कैपेबिलिटीज ऑफ बिकमिंग अ प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया और प्राइम मिनिस्टर?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because
Yes,
I am also a citizen of this India. Every citizen of India has the right to stand for elections and maybe become the president or prime minister or chief minister depending upon your capabilities, obviously. But that is how it happens. But हम सबके पास वो हक जरूर है, वो हक हमसे कोई नहीं छीन सकता, चाहे आप कोई भी कास्ट से हो, चाहे आप कोई भी बैकग्राउंड से हो, चाहे आपका कोई भी एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन हो, चाहे आपका कोई भी, आप कहीं से भी, कोई भी स्टेट से आओ, इट डज नॉट मैटर, as long as you are the citizen of India and थोड़े बहुत जो additional qualifications है, अगर वो आप fulfill करते हो, even you can contest to be the president or prime minister or any position in the government. Next, we talk about being a republic. What do you mean by a republic? कौन बताएगा?
मैम, रिपब्लिक का मतलब ये है टेक्निकली कि जो हेड ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट विल बी इलेक्टेड बाय द पीपल।
Exactly. जो हेड है that will be elected by the people. When we talk about monarchy में जो हेड होता है that is a pre-chosen person who is done on hereditary basis. But republic में ऐसा नहीं है. The exact point that I just told you, right? In democracy और republic के बीच में बहुत thin line है. Democracy is the power to choose your own leader, and republic का मतलब है कि every person can cast their stand for the election. ठीक है? Now coming back to the preamble, so we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and अब rights की बारी. We talk about what rights the constitution is going to give to us. Not in detail, but we just given कि ये constitution के through हम लोग ensure करेंगे that every person in India is given those rights. What are these rights? The first one we talk about is justice. Now, justice is something which is a very important word. Aaj tak it has been very impossible to define this word very accurately, because what may be justice to me may not be justice to you. But doing justice is the job of the judiciary, which is the third organ of the government. And when we talk about justice, it needs to be done and not just on the paper, but actually needs to be done. And that is why in our system, in our constitution, we talked about having the three organs, and the makers ensured that कोई भी एक दूसरे के एरिया में नहीं घुसे. So the legislature makes the law, the executive executes the law, and अगर law में कोई भी problem है, तो we go to the judiciary, क्योंकि judiciary implements, interprets, adjudicates upon these laws. आज अगर कोई बोलता है, अगर कोई भी नया लॉ आता है, एंड हमें ये जानना है कि वो लॉ हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को ओवरराइड या ओवर रूल कर रहा है, या हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अगेंस्ट जा रहा है, या इवन द राइट्स ऑफ द पीपल के अगेंस्ट जा रहा है, then it is this particular organ, the judiciary, that comes forward and does justice. And this was guaranteed to every citizen by the Constitution of India. When we talk about justice, we talk about not just justice politically, but we also talk about the social, we talk about economic justice. Now, when you tell me, ma'am, economic justice क्या होगा? Economic justice is nothing but the strive that we have कि इंडिया में every single person के बीच में जो भी monetary benefits होते हैं country के, उनको equally divide किया जाएगा. We will try our best to reduce the gap between the poor and the rich. yes, it is a very difficult task, but at least it has been promised to us. And there are laws that are being implemented to help us achieve it. I'm not talking in a very practical sense right now, but this is the constitution that is guaranteeing us this right. Okay? Coming to liberty, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship. When we talk about liberty of belief, faith, worship, that is why we have something called the secular nation. We have liberty of thought, thought and expression. Article 19(1). What does it talk about? It talks about freedom of speech and expression. आपके पास ये हक है कि आप अपने आप को किसी भी तरीके से एक्सप्रेस कर सके. आप अपने थॉट्स बोल के एक्सप्रेस कर सकते हो. Whatever is your thought process, whatever is your words, whatever is your anything that you want to do, whatever is the speech, you have the right to do it. But again, it is not an absolute right. Whenever we talk about the fundamental rights, you have to remember that it is not an absolute right. Fundamental rights पे भी कोई ना कोई बंदिश डाली हुई है, और उसका कारण ये है. ठीक है, मैं एक स्टोरी सुनाती हूँ. इट्स अ वेरी सिंपल स्टोरी and we often use this when we have to explain why it is not an absolute right. Imagine करो एक बहुत sunny day है, it is a very nice evening or it's a very nice afternoon per se, and on the afternoon you are taking a walk down the beach. ठीक है, आपके हाथ में एक अम्ब्रेला है और ये अम्ब्रेला को आप घुमाते घुमाते जा रहे हैं. It is something that you have the freedom to do, right? You pay the taxes, you have your roads, right? It is a public property. आपका ये freedom है कि you can walk down a lane. छाता घुमा के जाना है, वो भी आपसे खरीदा है, तो आपके पास पूरा हक है कि आप रोड का मजा लो, आप वेदर का मजा लो, और वो छाता घुमाते घुमाते आप चल रहे हो. ये आपका राइट है, कोई आपको रोक सकता है? नहीं. लेकिन जब आप रास्ते पे चल रहे हो, मैं सामने से आ रही हूँ, इंटेंशनली अनइंटेंशनली किसी भी तरीके से आपका छाता जाके फटाक मेरी नाक पे बजता है और मेरी नाक जाती है टूट. क्या आप बोल सकते हो कि ये आपका राइट था?
No.
Can you say that it was?
No, ma'am.
Exactly, it was not your right to break my nose. The moment your umbrella broke, your right ended and my right started. है ना? So rights and duties also go hand in hand. When we talk about rights, yes, you have certain rights, but आपका right के वजह से किसी और का right hamper नहीं होना चाहिए. And that is why her right का complementary version is duty. Rights and duties.
Ma'am, is it not contradictory? Is it not contradictory?
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I used the wrong word. Yes. Rights का contradictory version is duties. आपका rights कहीं hamper नहीं होना चाहिए. आपका duties कहीं hamper नहीं होना चाहिए. आपको right, आप कुछ जो चाहे आप बोल सकते हो. As long as the such, you have the whole right to talk about another person as well. But the moment आप झूठ बोलते हो या आप किसी की इज्जत उतार रहे हो on a public forum, that's when defamation happens, because your right does not give you the right to defame anybody.
In that sense, when we are talking the truth, is it not our right to say?
Yes, you have a right to say the truth. That's what I said. Unless or until you start speaking untrue things, that is when defamation starts. Defamation का 2 या 3 ही आपके पास defenses होता है. And the first one is truth. अगर आप सच बोल रहे हो, you are not doing defamation. But जहां आप झूठ बोलते हो, जहां आप किसी की इज्जत उतारने की इंटेंशन से आप कोई भी गलत बात बोल रहे हो, that is when defamation happens. And that is why even your freedom of speech and expression is not an absolute right. Okay? Now, coming back to liberty of thought, expression, belief, and worship, The next thing that we have to read under the preamble
Sorry
is
to interrupt,
equality
ma'am.
of. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. When we are talking
Yes.
about caste of someone, if you are talking somebody is ST or SC, then and when we are talking about somebody is Brahmin, now may I know when if we are talking that this person is SC and ST, then it hurts. But when we are talking about someone that is Brahmin or Kshatriya, then it doesn't hurt, or what? But both the things are truth.
Okay. Now, when you're talking about somebody belonging to a particular caste, we have something called Article 14 of the Constitution, which talks about the right to equality. Then we have Article 15, 16, 17, also on those lines. Now, in India, the word that you are talking about, or the way you're saying SC ST बोलना खराब लग जाता है, या किसी को ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय बोलना खराब नहीं लगता, it is again in the minds of the people. According to our constitution, हमने ऐसा कुछ नहीं बोला है. Constitution के according फंडा बहुत simple है कि हम लोग, even when we talk about giving, for example, when we talked about giving certain special rights to certain sections of the people, whether it was women and children, whether it was SC, ST, the only reason why we gave that was to make sure the starting line है वो equal हो जाए. Why? There was a time in India when we had the caste system, जहाँ पे 4 वर्णास में divide कर दिया गया था, and during the course of time, which was earlier a choice of having a profession, during the course of time it became more of hereditary character, and because of which a certain group of people were looked down upon. उस वजह से उनको एजुकेशन से वंचित रखा जाता था, उस वजह से उनको मंदिरों से बाहर निकाल दिया जाता था, जिस वजह से when the constitution was enacted we made sure कि ये चीज ना हो. That is why in the fundamental rights we included something called abolition of untouchability as well. We included in our Article 17 and 18, 19, 20 the freedoms that we are talking about, the right to equality as well. The only reason for classification and not do discrimination. There is a very big difference between classification and discrimination. When we talk about classification, we do the classification, ensure that whoever is oppressed, we bring them up. There is a case called Indra Sahani case. There are multiple, there is a history of cases when we talk about, all of these issues of caste system or giving them reservation. There is a stray of cases, but it is a topic of discussion for probably some other day. Okay? But yes, if we are discriminating, then it is wrong. When we are classifying with the intention to stop oppression, with the intention to bring equality in the nation, then it is a different matter. It is our thought process the way we are doing it. Okay? That brings me to fraternity. Fraternity jo hai, it talks about the unity and integrity of the nation. It talks about the feeling of brotherhood and sisterhood. It talks about the dignity that is of every single individual. चाहे आपका काम जो भी हो, it should not be your only recognition point. प्रधानमंत्री, क्या एक लॉयर, क्या एक डॉक्टर, क्या एक स्वीपर, किसी का भी काम कम होता है? नहीं होता है. कोविड में जब हम लोग घर पे बैठे हुए थे आराम से, it was because people who are so brave front warriors, वो बाहर निकल के हमारे लिए काम कर रहे थे. हम लोग तो मास्क निकाल के कचड़े में फेंक देते थे, but imagine the person who had to collect it, throw it in the dump yard का person जो उसको segregate करना होता था उस medical waste को, वो कितना हद तक अपनी जान को जोखिम में डाल रहा था. क्या वो कम है किसी से? वो हम सबसे ऊपर है. But the fact that we do not recognize this, we do not even think about this, is wrong. कोई प्रोफेशन छोटा बड़ा नहीं होता है, कोई इंसान छोटा बड़ा नहीं होता, and that is what our constitution teaches us. It tells us there is equality amongst every single citizen in India. Every single person should be given the equal opportunity. आज अगर मेरे पास लॉ की डिग्री है और आपके पास भी लॉ की डिग्री है, और अगर हम दोनों किसी जॉब पे जाते हैं, तो just because I'm a woman, I should not be stopped from approaching and getting that job. That is what is equality. That is what the equality of status and opportunity is. Right? Okay, coming back to this. So fraternity is the aspect of dignity. Fraternity talks about the unity and integrity of the nation. We talk about the preamble, talks किस दिन we adopt our constitution. We adopt it on the 26th day of November 1949 and we enacted it on 26th January 1950. Okay, so all of these factors were important. Now, coming to cases, there's this very famous case of In-Re Beruberi case. This happened back in the year 1967. No, 1960. Okay, and a 8-judge bench actually ruled and said कि जो preamble है, it is not a part of the constitution. Okay, but later on in the Keshav Nanda continuously बहुत सारा changes आया इस viewpoint में. There was the Golaknath case, there was the Keshav Nanda Bharti case, Indira Gandhi case, the Minerva Mills case. All of these cases were very landmark judgments. The moment we talk about the preamble, we talk about the the constitution per se. Also, as budding lawyers or lawyers who are people who are joining this field or in future want to become lawyers or are already in this field, मेरा एक suggestion बहुत strongly है कि if you want to understand how the system works, if you want to increase your knowledge to any extent, make sure you'll read judgments and not the judgments in the books the way we find it. Go read the actual judgments. आपको actual judgments आजकल इंटरनेट पे सब जगह मिल जाएंगे. कुछ जजमेंट जैसा आपका इंदिरा गांधी वाला केस है, मनेका गांधी वाला केस, द वेरी फेमस पासपोर्ट वाला पासपोर्ट अथॉरिटी केस जो है मनेका गांधी का, फिर केशव नंदा भारती केस है, द गोलकनाथ केस. इतने सारे इंसाइट्स हैं इन केसेस में. once you've read these judgments, it becomes so easy to implement the kind of the rights, laws, equality, whatever we have into this, right? So go read these judgments. It will always help you a lot. So I think that's my time for today. If anybody have any questions from me, I think we can take 2 minutes for that. Anyone?
Is it Maneka or Menka Gandhi, ma'am?
It's a way to pronounce it. You pronounce it Maneka, I pronounce it Menka. One and the same thing.
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes.
I mean, in legislation, there is one term, colorable. What is that?
Okay, so when we talk about colorable legislations, बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि how do I put this? Okay, colorable legislations के time पे usually what happens is कि जो legislation होते हैं ना, उनको जब हम interpret करना चालू करते हैं, तो it is a way in which you interpret this legislation, and colorable legislation is a form of that. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Any other questions?
Ma'am, what is the difference between separation of power in USA and India?
Okay, बहुत ज़्यादा difference नहीं है, but India में there is something called a check and balance system as well that we follow. In India, what happens is जब भी separation of power we do, in fact, the separation of power का concept we have taken it from the US. And India में क्या होता है? There are certain checks and balances. आज though all three boxes are separate, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary are separate. In a way, we have devised a method of check and balances. मतलब कि जो legislature का जो भी अगर legislature कोई law enact कर रहा है, we have given power to the judiciary to check whether or not this law should be enacted or not. अगर कोई भी चाहे तो उस legislation को judiciary के सामने challenge कर सकता है. The reason for this is to ensure कि किसी के पास भी absolute power ना हो इंडिया में. So what the legislation also does is, though they make the law, executive के पास ये power होता है कि उसमें और ज़्यादा elements add कर सके. So legislation, what they usually do is that they make the skeleton of the law, and जो flesh and blood होता है वो executive उसमें डालती है, and whether or not that particular law is workable, that or whether law is enforceable या उसमें कोई problem है, then judiciary का question आता है. So check and balance is an important aspect that, you know, in a way differentiates us from what has been done in the US. Any other questions? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think no other questions for today. It was an amazing class. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for being such great listeners, everyone. And I hope to see you again or see you in court soon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
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 Thanks a lot, Prerna, for conducting this class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
We hope to see you soon and we request you to take
Thank you, sir.
another session as soon as possible.
Thank you. I would love to take more classes. Thank you.
सर मुझे नहीं आता है.
चलो मैं तो देखो कितना बुढ़ा क्लास.
I would coordinate with Prerna for the next class, next session by her, and I would request her to decide the topic.
Rajesh,
Most really,
excuse me.
as I understand, you also take classes on interpretation of statutes.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. We will decide that later on. Thanks everyone for joining today.
I have a question, sir. May I have your attention?
Yeah, Prerna may decide whether she should like to take the question or not.
ना मुझे प्रेरणा
Yes,
मैम को
sir.
कोई सवाल नहीं है. मुझे एक सवाल इसी सेशन से है कि ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जिसको बनने में खुद 2 साल 11 माह 18 दिन लग गए, उसको 1 घंटे में, और इसके इश्यूज इतने डिबेटेबल है, जिस तरह का लंबा डिबेट किया जा सकता है, तो इस तरह के अगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जैसे मामले आए तो उनको मैं चाहूंगा कि इस पर थोड़ा लंबा क्लासेस हो, ताकि हम उसको डिबेटेबल कर सके. कुछ इश्यूज ऐसे हैं जो अनछुए रह गए, जैसे कि अभी ST/SC और ब्राह्मण वाला मामला था, जो एक मेरे मित्र ने अभी सवाल उठाया, उसमें कई सारे एंगल्स है. उन सारे एंगल्स पर थ्रेडवेयर डिस्कशन अगर हो, मैं समझता हूँ कि उस तरह के जो कार्यक्रम होंगे वो ज्यादा फ्रूटफुल होंगे. तो मैं समझता हूँ कि आगे आने वाले कक्षाओं में आप इस पर ज्यादा समय देंगे, और 1 घंटे में मैम से इतना ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट करना और आपसे भी इतना ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट करना, ये टोटली इनजस्टिस होगा. ये बहुत अच्छा सेशन रहा मैम का. आई थैंक हर.
Actually, I now recognize ये इंद्रनील मंडल सर मेरे ख्याल से
yes, I am Indranil Mandal from SP Law
कॉलेज के ना,
Yeah.
SP लॉ कॉलेज के हैं.
Yeah.
दुमका लॉ कॉलेज के लेक्चरर हैं, इनफैक्ट
Yeah. I'm coordinator.
कोऑर्डिनेटर हैं, लॉ के कोऑर्डिनेटर है. इनका कहना सही है. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इतना बड़ा एक सब्जेक्ट है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया अपने आप में, कि it may be still less if we have 100 sessions on it.
Yeah.
हाँ, और इसमें डिस्कशन ऑन गोइंग है, और इसमें जैसे ये जो ठाकुर साहब क्वेश्चन पूछे थे SC/ST एक्ट वगैरह के बारे में, तो ये टॉपिक्स जो है वो अनएंडिंग डिबेट इस पे हो सकता है, अनएंडिंग आर्गुमेंट्स हो सकता है, डिस्कशन हो सकता है, और निसंदेह ये बेहतर रहेगा कि सब लोगों को पॉजिटिव अभिव्यक्ति का समय मिले, और उससे जो अलग अलग विचार आते हैं लोगों के, उससे सभी लोगों को सोचने का मौका मिले, उन विचारों पे विचार करने का मौका मिले, और इससे सभी का एनरिचमेंट होगा, नया पर्सपेक्टिव्स मिलेगा. तो ये तो सही है, परंतु ये भी सही है कि हम लोग ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म क्रिएट करने का कोशिश कर रहे हैं. हाँ, और ये ऑनलाइन में अपना एक लिमिटेशन जो है, इस लिमिटेशन के तहत जो पॉसिबल है वो हम लोग लुक फॉरवर्ड टू हैविंग more detailed sessions on these. Thank you sir for your advice.
सर एक चीज और बोल रहा था
जी
सर, हम लोग BNS वाले डाल्टनगंज से हैं, लेकिन हम लोगों के पास कोई भी लिंक नहीं आ पाता है सर क्लास का, तो आप प्रिंसिपल सर को बोल देते तो अच्छा होता.
मेरा नंबर नोट कर लीजिए सारे लोग जो भी चाहते हैं.
यस सर, बोलिए.
82104
8210435619
619 और ये अपना नाम और कहाँ के लॉ स्टूडेंट हैं या कहाँ के लॉयर हैं ये व्हाट्सएप कर दीजिएगा।
यस सर।
तो हम उसको उस ब्रॉडकास्ट लिस्ट में जोड़ देंगे ताकि आप लोगों को स्वतः मिल जाए जब हम लोग ब्रॉडकास्ट करें इसको। ठीक है?
यस सर, थैंक यू सर।
So let us end the session today. Thank you, Prerna, for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you each one of you for joining.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Prerna, ma'am.